Welcome to Empathy Stories, where we delve into heartfelt narratives that explore the power of connection, love, and redemption. In today's story, a dedicated judge's world is upended when a brave young girl makes an unexpected declaration in court, leading him to uncover a life-changing truth about family and responsibility. The courtroom buzzed with muted whispers and shuffling papers as Judge Michael Carter reviewed the next case on his docket. It was a typical day in family court, a place where stories of fractured lives unfolded with relentless regularity. Michael, after 2 decades of service, was no stranger to the weight of these cases. Known for his calm demeanor and unerring dedication to fairness, he prided himself on keeping his emotions at bay, even when faced with the most heartrending situations. Yet, the file in front of him caused a pause he couldn't explain. Anna Harper, he murmured, the name lingering on his tongue as he scanned the details. A 12-year-old girl shuffled between foster homes after the death of her mother, now facing neglect in her current placement. He glanced at the notes, his usual detachment momentarily faltering as he read about her resilience and strong will. For reasons he couldn't pinpoint, this case already felt different. The bailiff's voice called out, and the heavy wooden doors of the courtroom swung open. A wiry girl stepped in, her dark curly hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She wore an oversized sweater that seemed to swallow her slender frame, and her large, expressive eyes swept the room with practiced calmness. Anna's steps were measured, her posture betraying a defiance that seemed to challenge the world around her. Yet, there was a vulnerability in her gaze that caught Michael off guard. For a fleeting moment, their eyes met, and an unsettling familiarity crept over him. Anna took her place beside her social worker, Grace Evans, who offered a reassuring nod. The judge straightened his robe, his usual composed mask slipping back into place. "Good morning, Miss Harper," he began, his voice even. "I understand this case involves concerns about your current foster placement." Anna nodded, her voice steady and firm. "Yes, Your Honor." Michael studied her closely. Most children her age would cower under the weight of the courtroom's formality. But not Anna. She met his gaze directly, her confidence striking in its maturity. It was a stark contrast to the many frightened and apathetic faces he had seen over the years. She seemed to carry a strength far beyond her years, and it unnerved him. Grace began presenting the case, her voice calm but tinged with concern. She spoke about Anna's turbulent journey through the foster system, highlighting her intelligence and independence, but also noting her tendency to keep people at arm's length. "She's been through more than any child should," Grace said softly. "But despite everything, she's remarkably strong." As Grace outlined Anna's history, Michael felt his thoughts drifting. His attention kept returning to the girl's face, her set jaw, her intense eyes. There was something about her that pulled at the corners of his memory, a feeling he couldn't quite name. When Grace finished speaking, Michael turned his attention back to Anna. "Miss Harper," he said, his tone softer now, "would you like to say anything?" Anna stood, her small frame straight and unyielding. "Yes, Your Honor." Her voice cut through the courtroom with surprising clarity. "I know people look at me and think I'm just some foster kid who needs saving, but I don't want pity. I just want a chance to be heard." Michael raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Go on." Taking a deep breath, Anna continued, her words unfiltered and raw. "I've been in the system for 3 years. I've lived in homes where they cared more about the money they got for taking me than about me. I've been places where no one asked if I'd eaten or even noticed if I did my homework. I don't want to be passed around anymore. I just want to find a place where I belong." Her words hung in the air, resonating with everyone in the room. Even the stenographer paused, her fingers hovering over the keys. Michael felt a pang of something he rarely allowed himself to feel in court: empathy. This wasn't just another case file. This was a child fighting for her dignity. "Anna," Michael said carefully, "I can see you've been through a great deal, but I need to ask, what are you hoping for today?" For the first time, Anna hesitated. She looked down, her hands twisting the hem of her sweater. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, almost vulnerable. I came here today because I have questions, she said. Questions about my mom and about you. The courtroom stilled. Michael's breath caught as her gaze met his. Steady and unyielding. There was something in her expression that sent a ripple through him. A recognition he couldn't place but couldn't ignore. His mind raced, trying to piece together what she could possibly mean. What kind of questions? He asked. His voice quieter now. Anna hesitated again, her bravado faltering slightly. My mom used to talk about someone, she said, her voice steadying. Someone named Michael. She said he was important to her. And when I saw your name on the docket, I had to ask. The words struck Michael like a thunderclap. His mind reeled. Memories he had buried long ago, forcing their way to the surface. Angela Harper. It had been years since he last thought of her, a vibrant, passionate woman he had once loved, but had let slip away in the chaos of his early career. Could it be possible? Before he could respond, Grace stepped in, gently redirecting the conversation to Anna's current needs. Michael nodded, regaining his composure. We'll address all of your concerns, he said. But for now, let's focus on ensuring your safety and well-being. As Anna sat back down, folding her arms across her chest, Michael couldn't shake the weight of her words. He glanced at her one last time before the session continued, a deep unease settling in his chest. There was something unmistakable in her gaze, a reflection of his own past staring back at him. The session adjourned for a short recess, and as the courtroom emptied, Michael remained seated, staring at the file before him. Anna Harper. Her name echoed in his mind, along with the memory of Angela's laughter, her radiant smile, and the fleeting joy they had shared. He couldn't ignore it any longer. This wasn't just another case. This was personal, and it was about to change everything he thought he knew about his life. Judge Michael Carter sat in his chambers, the heavy oak desk before him cluttered with case files that had lost all meaning. His normally sharp mind, accustomed to dissecting legal complexities, now swirled with fragments of memories he had tried to forget. Angela Harper. Her name alone tugged at the corners of his heart, pulling forth feelings he had buried beneath years of routine and ambition. Angela had been a force of nature when they met, a woman who radiated warmth and confidence, with a laugh that could light up a room. They had crossed paths during the early days of his legal career, when his world revolved around long hours and unrelenting ambition. Angela had been the only one to challenge his priorities, pushing him to see beyond his tunnel-vision pursuit of success. For a brief moment, she had been the center of his world. And then, life had pulled them apart. He hadn't thought of her in years. But now, the memory of her lingered like a ghost in the room. Could Anna Harper, the girl who had stared at him with such intensity in the courtroom, really be his daughter? The thought seemed impossible, yet it burrowed into his mind, refusing to let go. The knock on his door startled him. Michael straightened his tie, regaining his composure as his clerk entered. Your Honor, the social worker from the Harper case is here to speak with you, she said. Send her in. Michael replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. Grace Evans entered, holding a folder and wearing the calm expression of someone who had seen it all. Thank you for taking the time. Judge Carter, she began, sitting down across from him. I thought it might be helpful to provide more context about Anna's situation. Michael nodded, gesturing for her to continue. Grace opened the folder and handed him a photograph. It was a candid shot of Angela and a much younger Anna, taken years earlier. Angela's arms were wrapped protectively around her daughter, her smile as radiant as he remembered. Michael's breath caught in his throat. She was an incredible woman. Grace said softly. Angela worked tirelessly to provide for Anna. She was devoted to her, even when things became difficult. Michael's voice was tight. What happened? Cancer. Grace replied, her tone gentle. By the time she was diagnosed, it was too late. She passed away 3 years ago, with no close family to take Anna in. She's been in the foster system ever since. The weight of Grace's words settled heavily on Michael. Angela had fought her hardest battle alone, and he hadn't even known. His mind raced with questions. Had she thought of reaching out to him? Had she ever tried to tell him about Anna? Did Angela ever mention me? He asked cautiously. Grace hesitated, then nodded. She mentioned you once. A long time ago. She said you were a good man, but that you didn't know about the baby. She didn't want to disrupt your life. Michael closed his eyes, the guilt washing over him in waves. He thought of all the years he had spent consumed by his career, oblivious to the existence of a child who had needed him. I need to know if Anna is my daughter, he said finally. What's the first step? A paternity test. Grace answered. But, Your Honor, I should warn you, this won't be easy. Anna has been let down by so many people. She's learned to rely only on herself, and she doesn't trust easily. If you want to be part of her life, you'll have to earn it. Michael nodded, determination hardening his features. I understand, but if she's my daughter, I won't walk away from her. The next day, Michael arranged a private meeting with Anna and Grace in his chambers. When Anna entered, her expression was guarded, her arms crossed defensively. She had the look of someone ready to bolt at the first sign of betrayal. You wanted to see me? She asked, her tone cautious. Michael gestured for her to sit, though she remained standing. Anna, I wanted to thank you for being honest with me yesterday, he began. What you said about your mom and about me, it's a lot to take in, but I think we owe it to each other to find out the truth. Her eyes narrowed. So, you don't believe me? It's not that, Michael said quickly. I just want to be certain. A paternity test will give us the answers we need. Anna shrugged, her expression unreadable. Fine, do whatever you need to do. Michael studied her, his heart aching at the wall she had built around herself. Regardless of the results, I want to get to know you. I want to understand what you've been through. She hesitated, then sank into the chair, her posture stiff. There's not much to tell, she said flatly. My mom was amazing. She worked hard, even when she was sick. She always told me I was special. And then she died, and everything fell apart. Her voice cracked, and she looked away, blinking rapidly. Michael felt a lump rise in his throat. Your mother was an incredible woman, he said gently. I wish I had known. Anna glanced at him, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and longing. If you cared about her so much, why didn't you stay in her life? The question hit him like a blow. How could he explain the choices, the missed chances, the years spent chasing ambition? None of it mattered now. I don't have a good answer, he admitted, but I want to make things right. Anna studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, she said quietly, but I'm not going to wait around for you to figure it out. I've had enough people let me down. Her words stung, but Michael understood. Earning her trust would take time, and he was determined not to fail her. For the first time in years, his purpose felt clear. Whatever it took, he would find the truth. And if Anna was his daughter, he would prove to her that she wasn't alone anymore. Michael Carter sat at his desk, staring at the envelope that held the answer to a question that had consumed him since Anna Harper walked into his courtroom. The paternity test results had arrived earlier that day, and now the neatly folded paper inside represented a truth he wasn't sure he was ready to face. He ran his hands over his face, gathering the courage to open it. Finally, he unfolded the document, his eyes scanning the text until they landed on the confirmation at the bottom. Michael Carter is the biological father of Anna Harper. The weight of the revelation was immediate. Relief, joy, guilt, and fear tangled together in his chest, overwhelming him. He had a daughter, a 12-year-old girl who had grown up without him, who had suffered loss and disappointment while he remained oblivious to her existence. Michael's first thought was of Angela. He could almost hear her voice, see her smile, and he wondered what she would say if she were here. Would she be angry with him for not being there? Would she have expected him to step up now? He didn't know. But one thing was certain. He couldn't change the past, but he could shape the future for both Anna and himself. When Anna arrived for their next meeting, she walked into his chambers with her usual guarded demeanor. Her arms were crossed, her gaze wary as if preparing for another disappointment. Michael motioned for her to sit, sliding the test results across the desk. What's this? She asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. I wanted you to see for yourself, Michael said softly. The results. Anna picked up the paper, her eyes scanning the words. When she reached the confirmation, she froze, Her fingers tightened on the edges of the document, but her face betrayed no emotion. "So, it's true," she said quietly. "You're my dad." Michael nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I am." Anna set the paper down, her expression unreadable. "What happens now?" "Now," Michael said, leaning forward. "I want to be part of your life. I know I've missed so much, and I can't undo that. But I want to be here for you for everything. Whatever you need, I'll do my best to give it to you." Anna studied him, her sharp eyes searching his face for any sign of insincerity. "Why now?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with skepticism. "Why do you care all of a sudden? You didn't even know I existed until a week ago." Michael took a deep breath. "You're right. I didn't know, and I'll never stop regretting that. But now that I do, I'm not going to walk away. I won't be another person who lets you down." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she looked away, her jaw tightening. "People always say that," she muttered. "They say they'll be there, but they don't mean it." Michael felt a surge of determination. "I mean it, Anna, and I'll prove it to you. I know it's going to take time, but I'm not going anywhere." She didn't respond immediately, but her silence wasn't as cold as it had been before. Instead, it felt contemplative, as if she were weighing his words carefully. Finally, she stood up. "Okay," she said quietly. "We'll see." The following weeks were filled with cautious steps forward. Michael took every opportunity to spend time with Anna, learning about her interests, her struggles, and the things that made her smile. He attended her school meetings, helped her with homework, and even took her to the park for soccer practice, where he stood on the sidelines, clapping enthusiastically with every play she made. At first, Anna's walls remained firmly in place. She answered his questions with short, measured responses, careful not to reveal too much. But little by little, cracks began to form. One evening, as they sat in a diner after soccer practice, she surprised him by asking about Angela. "What was she like when you knew her?" Anna asked, her voice hesitant. Michael smiled, the memory of Angela bringing a bittersweet warmth to his expression. "She was incredible," he said. "Smart, funny, and incredibly strong. She always knew how to light up a room. And she loved you. Anna, I can see that same strength in you." Anna looked down at her plate, her fork tracing circles into mashed potatoes. "She used to tell me stories about you," she said softly. "She said you were stubborn and thought you were always right." Michael chuckled. She wasn't wrong. A small smile tugged at Anna's lips, but her expression quickly turned serious. "She also said you cared about people, even if you didn't always show it." The words struck Michael deeply. He had always wondered how Angela had remembered him, if she had thought of him at all after they parted ways. Hearing Anna's account felt like a gift, a connection to a part of his life he thought he had lost forever. "Thank you for telling me that," he said quietly. "It means a lot to me." Anna nodded, her gaze still fixed on her plate. "She would have liked this," she said after a pause. "You trying to be a dad." Michael felt his chest tighten with gratitude and guilt. "I hope I can live up to that," he said. "I know I have a lot to learn, but I'm willing to try, if you'll give me a chance." Anna didn't respond immediately, but her silence wasn't rejection. Instead, it felt like the beginning of something fragile but real. Michael knew the road ahead would be long and filled with challenges. But for the first time, he felt hopeful. They were no longer just two strangers trying to navigate an awkward relationship. They were a father and daughter, building something new together. Thank you for watching this powerful journey of love and redemption on Empathy Stories. Judge Michael Carter and Anna Harper's story reminds us that it's never too late to build bridges, heal wounds, and embrace new beginnings. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. Together, let's spread empathy, one story at a time. See you next time.